How do we keep the planet moving towards a greener future? It doesn't happen without driven entrepreneurs and inspired social impact leaders like you. This podcast will give the tools and insight you need to join the sustainability movement and save the world. This is Thinking Green with Mohammed Abdallah.
Welcome back, Thinking Green Nation. Today, absolutely, man. So my parents are Egyptian originally, and I was born in Ottawa, Canada. Moved to Texas at the age of 5. Went through the Plano Independent School District. Graduated as a Plano senior. I lost my dad as a kid. I was 9 years old. He passed away in a plane crash. Super unfortunate. Left my mom and 4 of my siblings here, and at a very young age, kind of that adversity put me in a position where I was constantly thinking about how can I build a future that's secure for myself, for my family, for the people that I love, from my community, and then at large. I always had this love for the planet that we live on. So I went off to college, chased kind of the money-making degrees. I heard how much kids were making in the oil and gas industry, working in these, landman professions. And so I graduated college, had a, corporate job lined up. And I did that for about 2 years, found myself, really seeking something that fit more with what I believe my legacy would be aligned with. And I just really had this nagging, belief that I was not meant to fit in this box, right? I was always asking questions that people around me didn't ask. I was always, seeking better solutions, whereas others would just be like, this is the way things are done. So just, and so I had that like unquestionable or unquenching thirst, I guess, for curiosity and for making the world a better place. And so that kind of brought me to leaving that corporate job and finding myself traveling the world. And during that journey, I saw, clean energy, and I was attracted to it. I believe that, Texas got all of this amazing sunlight. We have all these endless rooftops. We have a very unique grid relative to the rest of the country. And I just felt like distributed power was sort of this next wave that would take over the world. And just like distributed cell phone and internet architecture, and everything's kind of moving to this decentralized nature, power will do the same thing, in our lifetime. And we'll continue to see these little distributed grids popping up all over our grid infrastructure. So I'm really excited about, obviously I'm passionate about this, and that's how I got into it. And I love the fact that I'm in a growth industry. I can create lots of jobs for people. I love people, love the feeling of, just seeing someone that needs help or needs, just an opportunity, and being able to step in and give them that opportunity is, means everything in the world as a business owner. But yeah, man, that's kind of my story. I love clean energy. I have a beautiful wife, a daughter and a son, 2 kids, and a 3 and a 1-year-old. And I just like to keep it real, man. I don't like to, show up and pretend like I'm not who I actually am at work. I keep it real with my employees, keep it real with y'all. And that's the way I think it should be.
I love it, dude. I want to step back for a minute because like I told you earlier, I investigated you a little bit, right? So I didn't know, and I asked Jason about this, when they drill the well for the natural gas, and you said in your original video that they burn it off because it's not high enough quality, correct? And you said, I didn't. What's that?
Right. It's not valuable enough.
Yeah, so they just burn it. And I told Jason, we've been to Texas, we drive through and see all the fire, and I'm like, why do they do that? Now I know. Do they cap those back off, or do they just how does that? Or does the shit just burn forever, or what is that like? I mean, it's crazy.
It does, man. I mean, as long as that well is producing some sort of hydrocarbon out of it, typically the oil is of value. The natural gas is not of value,
Okay.
especially if the pipeline infrastructure is not there. So they're like, you know what? We're not going to really build pipelines out there. The oil is really why we're here.
Yeah.
We're going to truck the oil off anyways. but natural gas is not very cost effective to truck off.
Okay.
So they're just gonna burn it 24/7, 365
It's
until
crazy, man.
that well runs out of gas.
Okay. That's crazy. And that was a piece of information that just
Well,
floored
and
me.
what's crazy, man, is that like we were basically one day we were celebrating as a company how we could see Central Texas from outer space. And the company got together, we're throwing this celebration, eating cake and Coca-Colas, and we were like high-fiving each other about how NASA's now taking imagery of Texas that's showing all of the flares
Wow.
from those sites, and we were celebrating it, and I was like the only one in that room thinking like, guys,
God
like,
damn, I don't want to eat this cake, man.
yeah, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
that's crazy.
So,
Well,
Wow.
I mean, you're. I love your story. I mean, you're just the epitome of a true entrepreneur, right? Is that here you are in this, what we consider unenvironmental, wasteful industry in a lot of ways, that a byproduct creates all this other issues. And we won't go down that environmental rabbit hole, but, but there was a passion there that led you into the business that you're in now. And you can see that, right? The whole, you can see it in your video on your website, and your company culture now, I'm sure, is based on this passion for having this belief of clean energy and getting away from some of that stuff and taking care of our planet. And that's, I love that that's kind of what triggered you into this field, which is awesome. And then the second piece of that you said is your love for people. And when you are creating opportunities for other people to win, I mean, we win by default. And, our listeners have heard us say that before, that, we're creating an environment in a business where other people can be very, very successful and give them the opportunities to be successful. And you're doing that same thing. You're just the epitome of a true entrepreneur, man. And I love it.
well, I appreciate that, guys, and it's true.
And how old are you?
I'm 31.
Yeah,
Wow.
see, and you realize all this stuff like out of college, corporate America for a few years, which is kind of the model, right? Everybody gets told this is the model. You got to go to the school and you got to get your career so you can make $100K when you come out of college. It's like, whoop de fucking do. But a lot of people get stuck in that for the next 40 years and never change it. So kudos to you to seeing your passion and having the awareness to realize your passion to go down the other road. So it's awesome.
And taking that step, bro. I mean, you didn't know how it's gonna work out, right? You had a good paying job. You're like, man, this sucks. I can't do this, right? So you jumped all in, obviously, and started your own thing. Which brings me to another point. Are you a good salesman?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I've developed my sales skills over the years. So when I was in corporate America, I was more in a business development role. So I was going around and I was buying things from people.
Yep.
I was building relationships, building rapport, and then I would basically it was a lot more contract negotiation and me buying from them. And then when I got into the renewable energy space, very quickly, I realized that not all my skill sets translated over, because now I'm actually going out and selling something to somebody and asking them for their money,
Right.
To invest in a solar or a battery system. So it took me a long time to figure it out. I launched my startup in 2014. And I made $1,500 at the end of 2015. So I made zero money for almost 2 years.
Right.
Then 2016, I paid myself $1,000 a month. I had just gotten married. My wife's a speech therapist. So I was like, listen, I'm going to cover the $1,000 rent payment, and everything else is on you. And she was cool with it. She supported me. And then it just takes time. It takes time to build. And 1 year after the next, you find yourself like you just wake up one day and you're like, wow, I've got a company and a pretty cool business. And, I got 50 plus employees here at the building's mine. I have 180 solar panels on the roof, and things kind of come together, and that vision, you manifest it, but it doesn't happen overnight. And that's something we talk a lot about in Apex, right? Yep. People think that, if you walk by the bookstore and look on the bookshelf, there's a book that says, how to become rich in, 30 days, like just, that's like the world's greatest scammer, right? That's the reason why he's a published author. But no, I mean, it's it's really a long journey, and it's fun, right? Like you have to enjoy it. You have to want that grit. You want to, stomach the pain. You guys deal with it on a daily basis,
Yep.
right? So yeah.
When you mentioned surrounding yourself with the most qualified people, right?
Mhm.
So obviously, there's things that you hire, you get the right people around you that can do better than you, right? That's exactly what we try to do, right? And I mean, you've obviously done well with it, and it's very impressive. I mean, I perused through your website, and I mean, it looks great. And do you have a sibling that works with you as well?
I do. My younger brother, he's our business development
Right,
manager. So I actually kind of finally dragged him into sales with me.
right on.
Uh, and, like I said earlier, sales is to me kind of near and dear to my heart, because now I'm like, I understand the value of a sale, but I also am the salesperson that has the operational perspective. So I always try to tell people, like, don't just sell something and then toss it in, a bin, like, because that's essentially what you're doing. Like, it's not going to go anywhere if you didn't set the right expectations, if you didn't communicate well with the client. Basic business 101 things. But salespeople tend to overlook a lot of those things, up front, because they're just chasing the sale.
Yep.
So for me, like, when people say, "Oh, you're such a salesman," oh, that big smile, you're so salesy, right? And I tell them, like, I'm not trying to sell you anything at all, right? If you go solar with me, I might stand to make a couple $1,000s. If you don't go solar, you're looking to lose out on $30,000 to $40,000 worth of savings, in the next couple of decades. So,
Right.
like, I'm just here to help you. If you want to negotiate price, go to Chuck in a truck next door. I
Love it,
don't
dude.
do that. So, like, we're all about providing value within the sale, and then teaching and training our salespeople to have, an operational perspective, to where they're not just this natural friction of sales and ops. Well, typically it's because sales is like, whatever, man, like, just get the sale in and let them figure it out.
Yep.
Let them figure out how they're going to wire it, or trench 1,000 feet or whatever you have to do. And so yeah, but just to go back, so my younger brother, it's great to have him in the sales org with me, because I know he cares also about my clients, about telling them, the right things, setting the right expectations, selling them at healthy margins, not gouging the client like other salespeople, and other companies do. So we're just really trying to do the right thing, and that's hard to find in the solar space right
Right.
now, because it's like this wild west, and everyone's just seeing dollar signs flashing in front of them, and there isn't this real connection of, like, hey, this product, like the symbolism behind it, what does it do, right? It lowers greenhouse gases and carbon emissions, but it also makes our communities more resilient, right? With the power grid, and when you start coupling batteries, now you have mini or microgrids operating everywhere. And so for me, that's what it's all about. And then it translates into, creating jobs, and, all of the benefits that brings on a social impact perspective. So there aren't many businesses where you can have a real triple bottom line impact.
Yep.
And that's what I love about solar. But I think it's super important that consumers understand that, right now it's kind of the Wild West. There aren't a lot of regulatory, guidelines and boundaries set. There's a lot of people getting gouged. They get into this used car salesman conversation around how much can you afford to pay a month versus how much do you actually need to pay a month for,
Right.
and then they find themselves in this $60,000 to $70,000 hole of debt. And so anyways, ethical sales and educational sales is really what we've built our business around.
Dude, I love this. Just so you know, to show my age, I've been selling shit longer than you've been alive, which sucks. But anyway, you know what, dude? You know how I know that you're good shit and you're good at your job? You know how I know? Because you have 180 solar panels on your fucking building and you believe in your product. That's how you
Yes.
sell.
Mhm.
You're 100% sold on you and your product. So I got to give you kudos for that, dude. I
Well, I
can't.
appreciate it, man. I got a solar roof on my house,
Yep.
a battery on it,
You use the
have
shit
the
yourself.
latest and greatest technology. Like I'm willing to test it all on my house before I put it on a client's house.
Hmm.
But I tell this to people all the time, especially customers, like how many other solar companies you're going to find walking the walk? None of them are. I mean,
Right.
most of them are like, driving big, the biggest diesel trucks you can find, and you know what I mean? Like there's nothing environmentally friendly or that speaks to the mission at the core of the product that they're offering,
Yep.
right? And so I agree. And I even use it to recruit people. I use it to recruit salespeople. I'm like, how many other solar companies do you know where you can just go walk into their building? They got engineers, project managers, cross disciplines. You got a cool culture. You can play ping pong, shoot some hoops, make yourself a smoothie, whatever, right? Grab some snacks from the pantry, and then also be able to tell the client, oh, and we also have 180 solar panels on our roof. Just go to Google Maps and search our
Yep.
address, and you'll be able to see it right from the satellite image. And
That's awesome.
that's also become a recruitment tool, right? Indirectly. And there's so many benefits that come from just believing in, having those core values like we talk about all the time. And then your people start to see those investments, right? I tell people, like, I'm not just looking at an investment and saying, what's my bottom line dollar wise? It's got to be a financial decision, but also how is this going to impact people? And then how is this going to impact Mother Nature? And we've, for whatever reason, gotten away from thinking about what impacts our decisions have on the world around us. And I think we have to get back to that. Like, regardless of your political views or how green you claim to be, or it's not about that at all. It's just, I'm not here either to shit on oil and gas, right? Or like we need that. Like, I got trucks that run on diesel too. You know what I mean? But the point is, like, we have to all decide consciously that the future deserves to look better and to be better and be smarter and more resilient. And why can't we just all move in that direction together?
It's awesome.
Agree completely. And you have it for those that need the very actionable plan. Mo just gave it to you, right? Is that he had a passion that led him into where he's at in this business. That passion led into his core value and now his culture. And then by default, he is now targeting and attracting the best people, both from a customer perspective as well as a employee perspective. And so
Like-minded.
you have done exactly what most people struggle and are trying to do, right? Is to get those things aligned. It's like, well, how do I not have customers? How can I not attract salespeople? Well, where's your culture? What's your passion? Do people understand? Do you believe in your product? All those things, like your entire business right now has done exactly that. And kudos to you for figuring it out. It took us, 20 years. It's taken you, less than that, which is awesome. And man, the sky's the limit for you by getting that stuff done up front. And so for anybody that's listening, I mean, Mo gave you the exact roadmap, and we've talked about that before, about having all those things aligned first, and then all the other stuff just kind of indirectly comes to you.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, I mean, there's not a day that goes by where I, for a split second, think that I have anything figured out. You know what I mean?
No.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys feel that way too. It's incredible when you reflect on where you've been and where you are. But then in the present, we're always thinking about where we could be, and what we could be doing better. And so I think that's the nature of entrepreneurship in general, right? It's just, that new challenge, right? Reaching that next peak, and then saying, well, all right, well, where next to go? Like, there's only one way, and that's up, right? And so every single day turns into a challenge and into its own hike, right? Up whatever peak you're trying to get to. And you have to remember and remind yourself constantly, like, there's no way you can get there alone. And when your focus starts to turn into, like, how can I recruit the best people, which took me a long time to really understand. And before I'd make an investment, I'd be like, well, do we, I'd have all this indecision, right, around like, can we afford it, and are they the right person? And indecision can be crippling, right? You hear Andy Frisella and a lot of business coaches talking about indecision and how you need to not be indecisive, like at least make a decision, make a mistake, learn from it, and do better.
Imperfect action.
Imperfect action, right? And so, I mean, I think one of the biggest things for my business maturity was whenever I found talent, even if I didn't have a natural position to put them in, I could not skip out on bringing them in, right? I just feel like this person's so talented that let's bring them in,
Absolutely.
And exactly like, where, how, I don't know, we'll figure it out, so they'd be like, oh, here Mo goes again with his entrepreneur style type of recruiting, and ultimately, like, those people that you brought in, one day they might have been a project manager, and then the next day an accountant, and then the day after that they're a business development professional, and they helped you achieve the higher peaks that you were seeking.
Totally.
That you knew there's no way you could get there by yourself.
Absolutely. I love that, dude.
And I mean, obviously a big piece of that too is, and you mentioned it earlier, is finding people that are really good at the things you're not good at. Right? I'm not a good salesman. I did sales for a long time because I had to, right? By necessity. I don't love it. In fact, I'm not, and not really not just very good at
it. you're all right.
But so what do? You got to hire people that are better at it than you, And it's amazing that when you put the talent in the room, you put the skill sets in the room, you bring those people together, you rising tide raises all ship, right? So make the people around you successful, and they're going to bring you up indirectly and directly. It's awesome.
You guys have built a team, like, would you say it's a state team, a regional team, national team? What does y'all's company looks like?
We're regional at this point. So we have 4 offices and 25 employees scattered across 2 states.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All West Coast?
All West Coast right now, yeah. And we have a new guy coming on that's in Colorado, so that'll spread us a little bit.
Yep.
Looking for some other opportunities, both from acquisition perspective, as well as just additional salespeople, kind of around the West.
Very cool, guys. Yeah, I mean, the West Coast is where you find the beautiful tides, the mountain ranges. I'm going to actually be out in Washington State in a couple of weeks doing a 30-mile excursion near Mount Rainier.
Oh, right on, dude. Yeah, that's not.
So we're only about 3 hours from there, bro.
You're not far from us.
Come join me, man. Bring your tents and your camping pillows and sleeping bags. Let's get a little time in nature. What do y'all think?
Well, you send me the details, man.
Send Jason the details, but I wonder.
Steve's not in, but
I'm totally cool with doing the hike. I'm good with that. But is there like a travel trailer that can follow us around and I can sleep in that? Because I got to tell you, as you know, I'm getting older. I have a sleep apnea machine, and I would keep you guys up all night because I snore terribly, dude. So if you can find me a little camp trailer, maybe a generator.
It's actually because he needs his hair dryer and he wouldn't know what to do without it.
I don't have hardly any hair. What are you talking about, dude? But that is cool, dude. You're gonna love it. It's beautiful there. You're gonna love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, you guys are blessed, man. We don't have that kind of setup out here, and it's nice to get out and travel a little bit, spend some time in nature. But really looking forward to it. I also went to Mount Olympic National Park a couple years back, and that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
You guys are in Portland or south of Portland?
No, we're east of Portland. About 3 hours. So we're kind of on the east side of the states, and so
we're high desert. I mean, we're high desert. Great farming. That's kind of why we're here.
We're in the ag country.
We're in the ag country, big time. But we're what? Are we 45 minutes from the mountains, give or take?
Yeah, about
probably 45 minutes from the Blue Mountains. So, but we are in high desert country over here. But it works good for us with farming communities.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
But we do anything outdoors related, man. That's where we live. Yep. That's what I mean. We don't spend a lot of time inside.
So you guys have heard my story. I mean, I know your listeners, I'm sure, know your story, but I'm kind of curious to talk like business bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys absolutely not tolerate in your business? Because your podcast is no bullshit business. So I want to hear directly from y'all. Just like, what are kind of your principles, your rules of business that you don't allow any, bullshit to creep in between it?
Want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
No negativity. 0. We don't allow it one bit. Not one bit, dude. Not for 1 second. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I was gonna preface that with we have core values,
And yeah, if you don't follow
right?
them,
And I mean, they're core values that are started by your founder, your visionary, whoever, me, right? They're a reflection of me, typically, and but that's it. If we don't, the core values is the bare minimum. I mean, almost bare minimum. You follow them or you don't, or you're not. I mean, if you don't follow them, you're not a member of our team.
and that's worked out well, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
it has.
And it's much easier now to see those things because we have them written down. We discuss them regularly, and that was only probably less than a year ago that we put those in play. They were always there. Those were always functions of me and the company, but
nobody knew.
right,
Yeah.
unwritten rule versus a written rule. And once they're kind of written and they're in front of everybody and you discuss them, and it's like, okay, well, that's why we got rid of that person. Well, that's why we got rid of that person, or that's why that person left because they didn't fit in. Well, usually that stuff relates to those, 6 core values.
Well, it's worked out well. I mean, and you're correct, Jason and Mo. It was probably just about a year ago.
Yeah.
We sat down and Jason had, excuse me, had his thoughts and everything. We went through it, and it took us a couple weeks to figure out exactly what they look like, but it's worked out awesome. And then, our team members love it. They live by them. We live by them, and it's changed the culture so much. And I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like what your company is, right? I mean, everybody's a team. It's a family here, and it's been a hell of a good ride.
I like the way you phrase that, Jason, because it really does, like, the no bullshit business really comes down to, like, if you don't align with our core values, like, there's no place for you here. Like, not in this world, right? Maybe in another world, but we can be friends and all, but we can't do business together because, I need to ensure this highest level of degree of excellence, for my clients, for my all my stakeholders, right? So I couldn't agree more, man. We sat down and flushed out our core values and vision, I want to say a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And probably around the same time, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
And it like baffles me, man, how like so many business owners don't have core values, right? Or like take 10 years and I'm one of those guys too, right? Like I can't just sit there and be like, look at all these other people not doing it. But I was one of those people. And now it seems so simple. Like, how did we not sit down and write out like, a couple of core values? For us, it's like respect, integrity, service, and excellence, right? Rise. And we love them. And for me, yeah, like I can't have you around me or within my business if you can't respect people. Right? If you can't respect yourself or respect those around you, respect the environment that you're in. And so I'm the exact same way from that perspective. I couldn't agree more. It's all about your core values. And if people want to, live by them, great. We're past that foundation, right? Now we can start to, court and get to know each other. But if we can't do that, that's, like you said, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other piece to that is that, say somebody that, comes into your organization and doesn't fit those core values, doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, doesn't say that we can't be their friend. It's in their best interest too, because they're not going to enjoy it here. If they don't live those same core values that we do and everybody else on the team does, if they don't live those, they're going to hate it here.
Well, dude, they're going to be super successful somewhere else. It's cool.
100%. Yeah. And as soon as they figure out and we figure out, like, we're better apart than we are together, it's better for both parties. And I mean, I think, so you threw me under the bus there in the sense that it took me 15 years to do this shit. And you're just trying to, like, I'm prototypical, like, entrepreneur. I was just trying different shit, and there's always other shit to climb and sell more stuff and grow, and what's the next step, and hire people, and okay, what's the next step? And, I had to learn all this shit by default, because we didn't have Apex 15 years ago, right? We didn't have these same groups 15 years ago. So I had to learn by doing the work. And, it took me 15 years to sit down and say, okay, let's actually put our core values to paper. Let's build let's make sure our team fits those, and let's continue to build our team off those. I mean, you can now look back, and I can look at I don't even want to know the number of people that have come and gone, in my, career as an employer. And you look back and you're like, well, yeah, it's because they didn't fit that one, and they didn't fit that one. Well, they didn't fit that one. No shit. If I'd had this stuff written down 10 years ago, half of them would have never came to work for me because it would have shown right in the first day that they didn't fit those values.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and just along that note, 2014, I was having a really hard time getting my startup off the ground, and then at the end of the year, I got accepted into a program at the University of Pennsylvania in social impact strategy. It was like this inaugural program. First year they're having it. They accepted 30 students around the globe. I was kind of sitting around, twiddling my thumbs, like, what's the next step in life? And then I saw this program, I applied for it, I got accepted. And in the first couple of weeks, it was transformational for me because my professors, I'd come to them and I'd be like, I have this great idea. They'd be like, awesome, put it down in writing and send it to me. And at that point in my life, I was 23, 24 years old. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. I just wanted to tell people my ideas and then expect those ideas to manifest themselves, sure. Right? Just through a verbal action.
Yep.
And it took me that program to wake up and realize that every single time I said something, they'd be like, here's a framework, write it in there. Here's a business canvas model, fill it out, right? Here's the logic model, take a stab at it. And we had all these frameworks that they basically forced me to put my ideas and distill it in writing. And then once you see it in writing, it becomes real. And you hear this from everyone and anyone that goes through this same stage in life, right? That they pass through this epiphany that's like, wow, I had these ideas, but they didn't actually turn into anything until I started writing them out. And then iterating them and then, testing them and then going back to the drawing board again. You know what I mean? So
I know not to interrupt you. 1000% do I know what you mean. My business today, has completely transformed over the last 4 or 5 years. November of 2016, I put down all of the things that I was thinking for the last, 4, 5, 10 years prior to that about what I wanted this company to look like. November of 16, I put that all down on paper, and I still have all of that, all my computers saved of what I wanted each year after that to look like. And wouldn't you know it that, holy shit, we did most all of it.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's incredible.
You can sit there and somebody would have told me that, and even then, right? You're putting your goals and your direction for what this company looks like on paper versus just thinking about it and doing it all day long. Oh, bullshit. Putting it to paper is not going to be that big of a deal. Well, fucking do the work, because as soon as you put that shit to paper, it does take an entirely different level of importance in your mind, and there's some psychology behind it. I know Ed Milet and a few people have talked about that. There's a level of manifestation behind that stuff, but I'm not smart enough for all that. I just can tell you right now that it worked for me. When I put it down, all of a sudden the trajectory changed, and 4 or 5 years later, we are ahead of what was on paper then. Mm-hmm. But I can go back to it now and look at it. It's right there, and it's amazing. Such a simple thing. I mean, that you get into vision building and vision boarding and things like that. You're just kind of manifesting this stuff in your mind. It's amazing how powerful that is.
100%. Yeah. We're giving people millions of dollars worth of advice right now.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, it's not worth shit if they don't do anything about it.
You guys were talking about writing that stuff down
all the time. Do the work. Do the work. Put it down on paper. Let it manifest itself through taking action, and that action requires small milestones.
Yep.
Just chip a little bit away at a time until you hit the gold, right? Until you get to the prize.
Well, it's totally like you guys talked about, a little bit longer term vision, but it's the power list, dude. You guys know Andy Frisella. It's your power list that you write down every day, right? It's the same principle, a little bit longer version, obviously, but that's what it is. I mean, yeah, you put those 5 tasks down and you don't fucking do anything. You don't do shit until they're done. I mean, that's just how it is. And it's amazing. I've done that. I've done it for years. Then I fall off of it, right? And I'm like, God damn it, I did not get that done. You know what I mean? So I got to write that shit down, and I have to have a goal at the end of the day to make sure they're done. And if I don't write it down, I don't do it.
Well, and that's
Straight up.
if you do it, that those little things, those little things compound. And so you add that shit up every single day, that little bit of work, doing the work, right? Talk about that all the time. Do the work, those little tasks. They may seem like, minuscule for the day, but those little things compounded over 2, 3, 4, 5 years take you from a startup to where you're at today. Take you from what our company looked like 5 years ago to what it looks like today. I mean, all those things are little, small changes every single day. The shit doesn't happen overnight. And so, you hear all these people looking for that, I'm going to buy that book of how to make $1 million in the next 30 days. It's like, we already fucking failed because that shit doesn't exist like that. It doesn't work.
Wait a minute.
Buy some crypto or
bullshit.
some shit.
Yeah,
like
there's that Forex trading. I hear you can make a shit pot doing that.
Yeah, those guys can get out of my goddamn DMs.
Mo, do you do that? You Forex guy?
Oh yeah, man. 4x, 10x, 50, whatever X.
I get
you
that
want,
shit
man.
all the time.
Whatever X you want.
Are you familiar with Forex? Yeah, not interested, thanks, but no shit. Dude. But anyway,
I still don't even.
you guys clearly don't know
what that
shit
is.
about Forex. I mean, I've made millions. Look at me.
I actually don't even know what it is.
I don't
still.
either, dude. I feel like a
Foreign
dipshit.
exchange trading or some
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Get out of my DMs. I'm gonna go back and make make our money the
The real way, the
way
legit
we
way.
know how to, right?
Anyway. And I think when I've been at my optimal is when I'm in tune with my character, and I have a good routine, good habits going on. It's not a secret that having a balance of between your health and nutrition, your state of mind, your relationships, your spirit, so on and so forth. That's when you're going to be at your optimal. So for me, it's all about yes, all of the small actions and the small changes add up, and that's not just in your business, but that's in you, and that's what you start to realize as you mature a lot. It's like, how can I be a better person every single day, and what habits do I need to build for me to continue to continue on that road of self-improvement and so on. And so I'm a huge fan of self-improvement, as I know you guys are. And, it's real, man. Like it's a never ending journey. Like, my plan is to go out head first. You know what I mean? Like I that's, as an entrepreneur, again, I live for that thrill, and I want to continue to challenge myself, drive myself to become a better and better and better version of myself. Because I know through that I can, I can radiate that to the people that I love and that are around me, and to my employees and to my podcast listeners and to my, so on and so forth. But it really is, man. I mean, those small actions, big results. You look back one day and you find yourself like Jason and I saying, "Wow, I was writing this stuff on paper in 2016." And now I'm doing it, and I'm a leader in my field doing it. And that's just, that's irreplaceable, man. You don't get that thrill, that feeling anywhere else, right? Love my kids. They don't give me the same thrill that
Right.
entrepreneurship does, right?
Well, I love, a big takeaway from your point is the consistency, right? There's so much success in the consistency. The consistency of the work and those small steps every single day that leads to where you want to go. And, we talk a lot about like the similarities between, weightlifting and business, right? Or getting better in your, in any sort of self-development portion, whatever you're working on, is that, okay, I want to get stronger. Well, I sure as shit not going to add 100 pounds to the bar in one day. I'm going to add 2 pounds to the bar once a week for the next 2 or 3 fucking years. And then I'm going to add, look, I'm at my 100 pounds over where I'm at today. And, that understanding that level of consistency is what's needed to actually be successful in entrepreneurship and in this world is the simplest concept, but most people don't want to do it. And that's fine. Those of us that do, we're going to continue to do it.
Yep.
And we're going to continue, like Mo said, to be these quote unquote crazy entrepreneurs that everybody, around us says. But we're just kind of driven by that. It's part of us. It's who we are. And I think we kind of realize that even from looking back to like, you know, when I was a young kid, like young, you know, I have stories of knowing that I had this gene, this drive to be, you know, an entrepreneur at a very, very young age. It was always there. It's still there. It's not going away.
Totally, yeah.
I was selling candy kebabs in elementary school, man.
I was trying to mow yards, whatever. I think I told this story before where I might have been like 10 and I, you know, got like, you remember you don't, you're too fucking young, Mo, but when WordPerfect first came out, like, and you could actually type shit on the computer, and I created like this lawn mowing business, right? And I walked down the street and I put in flyer in everybody's mailbox. I mean, every single one. I was going to mow yards. I was going to make a bunch of money. It was awesome. I was 10 years old. Well, that night I get a call from the postmaster of Tillamook at the time where we were living and says, can I speak to Jason Graybeal? I'm like, oh, yeah, this is, you know, I'm 10 years old. Yeah, me? And he's like, yeah, well, I hate to tell you, you broke a federal law by putting mail in a mailbox without postage on it. And so you can go to prison for that. Oh. Well, shit, I didn't know. Am I going to go to jail?
I'm just a kid. Give me a break,
I'm just a kid. I was just trying to make some money. Well, the postmaster was still nice. I mean, obviously he understood. Like, kid trying to make some money was great. He pulled them all. He's like, I'm sorry. I pulled them all out. None of them got delivered. But you can put them back if you want to put postage on them. I was like, I'm just glad I'm not going to prison. So, but, you know, that spirit, right, is in you then.
Mail back in the day, man. You were slanging it.
Yeah, but I mean, that stuff's in you. It doesn't go away.
It does, man. It is.
So, before we kind of wrap up, let's hear about the podcast.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So I started a podcast called Thinking Green. It's a podcast to highlight the stories of entrepreneurs and nonprofits and other entities that are focused on sustainability, whether that's water, energy, power, housing, transportation, whatever. Just trying to kind of showcase this world where you're more conscious about the decisions that you're making, mainly your purchasing decisions, and you know, what kind of organizations you support with your dollars. So it's about 7-8 episodes in. I've done a couple of solo episodes. I had a couple of my mentors, people that inspired me along my journey on the podcast. I've had a great gentleman from a nonprofit, a distinguished nonprofit that does clean water projects with sustainable energy around the world on there. So I'm just having a really good time, man, you know, promoting it. And really for me, I look at it as kind of like an archive of the conversations I've had in my life, you know, where, you know, because I lost my dad at a young age, I don't really have any archives of him. And for me, this is kind of a way to where maybe in the future, you know, my kids listen in and they're like, oh man, you know, dad having this conversation with whoever, let's hear his perspective on life, on business, on impact, on philanthropy, so on and so forth. So I'm enjoying it, man. Just get your voice out there, let it be heard, let people know what you're about, you know, your principles, your core values. And if you could just change even one person's life through your podcast, then that would be enough for me.
Totally.
Well, you might as well just drop the mic after that because it was pretty perfect. Well, dude, I mean, you're brilliant, and you know, we look at it too, just so similar of like having conversations like this and being able to hear your story and all these little nuggets that you drop throughout. I mean, it's free coaching for us too. I mean, we're learning from every person that we put on the show. It's fantastic. And dude, you're brilliant. You're gonna do some pretty awesome things. So I'm excited to see where you go.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks again for having me on the show. The no bullshit business. Can I do the outro? Or?
So before you leave, dude, tell everybody how to find you. Everything. Your Instagram, your Facebook, your
Apple,
business.
Spotify, the whole shebang. Search Thinking Green with Muhammad Abdallah, Thinking Green. You know, check us out. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a 5-star.
Damn right.
Listen to a couple of episodes. Let us know what you think.
Right on, dude.
Awesome.
Love it, man. Great job,
All
dude. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah, take care.
All right, later.
Thank you for listening to Thinking Green with Muhammad Abdallah. This episode was brought to you by Good Faith Energy. For more information, check out goodfaitenergy.com. Make sure you subscribe, give us a review, and leave a 5-star rating. If you like this episode, share it with a friend. See you on the next episode of Thinking Green.